I need to tell you about the night my best friend pulled me aside at a rooftop party in Austin, leaned close enough that only I could hear him, and said 7 words that made me rethink everything I thought I understood about myself. But to get there, I have to start 2 weeks earlier, with Jade. Before I go on, if you've ever agreed to something you told yourself was simple and slowly realized it was the most complicated thing you'd done in years, leave a like. Because that's exactly what happened to me. Jade Mercer and I had worked in the same building for almost 1.5 years before we became actual friends. She worked in brand strategy on the 4th floor. I was in project management on the 7th. We'd been sharing the same elevator, the same terrible lobby coffee machine, and the same opinion about the building's air conditioning since the previous spring. Somewhere between the bad coffee and the broken thermostat, we'd become the kind of friends who texted too much and grabbed lunch too often, and knew more about each other's lives than people who had never dated probably should. She was sharp, funny in a way that caught you off guard. She had strong opinions about things most people shrugged at, and she held them without apology, which I respected more than I ever said out loud. She also had an ex-boyfriend named Cole, who had started showing up at the same events she attended, always with perfect timing, always with the specific kind of smile that men wear when they want you to know they haven't moved on, but are pretending they have. Cole was the reason she called me on a Thursday night and asked if I would come to her friend Danny's rooftop birthday party the following Saturday. Not as a friend, as her boyfriend. Just for the night, she said. Cole is going to be there, and I don't want to spend the whole party managing how he looks at me. I sat with the phone against my ear and looked at the ceiling for a second. It's one night, she said. You already know half the people going. You won't even have to pretend that hard. That last part should have been a flag. It wasn't, because she was right. I already knew how to be around Jade. I already knew how she moved through rooms, how she laughed when something actually surprised her versus when she was being polite, how she held a drink when she was relaxed versus when she was managing something. Pretending to be her boyfriend was not going to require a lot of acting. That was the problem, actually. I just didn't know it yet. I said yes. Of course I said yes. Saturday came around fast. The party was on a rooftop in East Austin, one of those spaces that looked effortless in the way that requires enormous effort to produce. String lights in warm amber, 2 coolers of drinks near the stairwell door. Low music coming from a speaker someone had balanced on the ledge of the water tower. Austin in late October has a sweetness to the air at night, still warm, but with the first edge of something cooler underneath it. And the whole rooftop felt like someone had arranged it specifically to make bad decisions look reasonable. Jade met me downstairs in the lobby of the building. Dark green dress, hair loose, silver earrings that caught the light when she turned her head. She looked the way she always looked when she had decided to be fully present somewhere, settled in herself, like she had agreed with her own reflection before she left. She looked at me and smiled. You actually dressed up. You said it was a birthday party. I said it was a rooftop birthday party. She tilted her head. There's a difference. I'm going to need you to explain that difference later, I said. She laughed, which was the right sound for the beginning of something I hadn't named yet. We went upstairs together. The party was already moving. Danny, whose birthday it was, pulled Jade into a hug immediately and looked at me over Jade's shoulder with bright, evaluating eyes. You must be Daniel, she said. Jade talks about you. Jade pulled back from the hug. Don't make it weird, Danny. Danny made a face that meant she was absolutely going to make it weird and turned to pull someone else into the conversation. The first 40 minutes were easy. I knew Marcus and his girlfriend Priya from previous things Jade had brought me to. Marcus was the kind of person who made every room slightly louder and slightly better, and Priya worked in documentary film and had strong opinions about everything, which meant conversation never stalled. We stood near the west railing with drinks in hand and the Austin skyline behind us, and it felt like any other night out with people I genuinely liked. Except Jade's hand was resting against my arm when she talked, and I had moved twice without thinking to stand slightly between her and the direction Cole was likely to come from. And at some point, I had put my hand at the small of her back without being asked, and neither of us had mentioned it. Cole showed up around 9:30. He came through the stairwell door with a group of 3 people, laughed at something one of them said before he even cleared the doorway, and did a very deliberate slow scan of the rooftop that was designed to look casual and was not. He found Jade in about 6 seconds. His eyes moved to me a beat later. Something in his expression rearranged itself, not dramatically, just enough. Jade felt it. I felt her feel it. The hand that had been resting lightly against my arm shifted and found my hand instead. I held it, not performatively, not to make a point, just because it was there and it felt like the right thing to do, and that was a distinction I was going to have to think about later. Cole made his way across the rooftop at the same unhurried pace as a man who had nothing to prove. He reached us with a smile that had been designed to read as friendly and landed somewhere closer to territorial. Jade. Hey. Hey, Cole. Jade's voice was clean. Even. His eyes came to me. He waited. Daniel, I said, and offered my hand. He shook it with the specific grip of a man performing relaxation. You two here together? Cole asked, which was obvious from the joined hands and the fact that I had not let go. Yeah, Jade said simply. Cole nodded like he was filing information away for later use. Good for you. His eyes moved between us one more time. Then he smiled with his teeth and excused himself toward the coolers, taking his entire weather system with him. Jade exhaled quietly, one breath, controlled, through her nose. That wasn't as bad as I expected, she said. Agreed, I said. She looked down at our hands, then up at me. I didn't say you could stop. So I didn't. Here's where I need to pause and ask you something. Have you ever been in the middle of doing something you agreed to call simple and realized that the simplest part had been the lie you told yourself going in? Comment yes or no. Because I was standing on that rooftop holding Jade Mercer's hand, and it was not feeling like a favor. It was feeling like the most honest thing I had done in 6 months, and that information was sitting in my chest like something I did not have the vocabulary for yet. Marcus found me alone near the railing about 20 minutes later. Jade had gone with Danny to get more drinks, and Cole was across the rooftop in a conversation that seemed to be absorbing him, so I had a few minutes of quiet. Marcus came and stood beside me with his beer and looked at the skyline. You good? He asked. Yeah, I said. Fine. He nodded. We stood there for a moment. Marcus was one of those people who could be comfortable in silence without filling it, which was one of the things I had always liked about him. Then he glanced over his shoulder, making sure no one was within range, and leaned slightly toward me. He said, very quietly, 7 words. She cried when she thought you were dating someone. I turned to look at him. He kept his eyes on the skyline. About 4 months ago. That woman you went to your cousin's wedding with. Someone told Jade you were seeing her. She was at Priya's place and she thought we didn't notice. He paused. We noticed. The rooftop kept going around me. Music, voices, the warm October air. Cole somewhere behind me making conversation. All of it kept happening in the normal way the world keeps happening when something inside a person quietly shifts. Marcus took a drink of his beer. Just thought you should know, he said. Then Priya called his name from near the coolers, and he walked away like he had said nothing more significant than a comment about the weather. I stood at the railing for a moment and looked at Austin. 4 months ago. I had gone to my cousin's wedding with a woman I had been on 3 dates with. Nothing had come of it. I barely thought about it now. But 4 months ago, Jade had heard about it, and Priya had noticed something she hadn't said out loud, and nobody had told me. I thought about the way Jade had found my hand when Cole walked through the door, the way she had told me not to stop, the way she looked at me when I made her actually laugh, which was different from the way she looked when she was being polite. The way she had texted me at 11:30 on a Tuesday 3 weeks ago, because she saw a headline about a documentary she knew I would have opinions about and couldn't wait until morning. I thought about how easy tonight had been. Not because I was good at pretending, because I hadn't been pretending at all. Jade appeared at my side with 2 drinks, one of which she handed to me without asking if I wanted it. You look like you're doing math, she said. Sort of, I said. She leaned against the railing beside me. Good math or bad math? I looked at her. The silver earrings moved when she tilted her head to wait for my answer. The amber string lights made everything warm and unhurried. Jade, I said. Yeah, when you thought I was seeing someone, 4 months ago. She went still, not dramatically. The small, specific stillness of a person who has just heard a sentence they did not expect to hear. Who told you that? She said. It wasn't a question. Marcus. She closed her eyes for 1 second. Then she opened them and looked at the skyline, which was suddenly very interesting to both of us. It was nothing, she said. I was tired and it was a weird week. That's not what Priya said. Priya needs to mind her own business. Jade. She exhaled once. Her hands were around the drink I had watched her pour without ice, because I already knew she didn't like ice in whatever she was drinking. What do you want me to say, Daniel? Her voice was quiet, honest in the way things get when the performance options have run out. That I sat at Priya's kitchen table and felt something I didn't have a name for and didn't want to examine too closely. She paused. Okay. Fine. I did. I turned to face her. She kept looking at the skyline. You could have told me, I said. She laughed, short and dry, and said, What? Hey, I heard you're maybe dating someone and I have feelings I've been pretending are just friendship. Want to talk about it? Yes, I said. She finally looked at me. Her expression was somewhere between exasperated and something softer. The way a person looks when they've been holding something at a careful distance and someone has just walked right through the careful distance like it wasn't there. You're serious, she said. I've been holding your hand for 2 hours, I said. None of that was for Cole's benefit. She was quiet for a moment. The music behind us shifted into something slower. Someone near the stairwell laughed at something. The Austin night stayed warm and amber around us. This is going to make the elevator weird, she said. The elevator was already weird, I said. We've just both been pretending it wasn't. Her mouth moved at the corner, not a full smile. The specific expression she had when something had surprised her and she was deciding whether to let it show. I didn't ask you here tonight just because of Cole, she said finally. Her voice was lower now, meant only for the distance between us. I asked you because you're the person I wanted to be standing with, and I thought if I gave it a name, I'd ruin what we already had. I know, I said. I've been thinking the same thing. She looked at me. For a long time, neither of us said anything, because some things don't need to be talked through. They just need to be stood in long enough to become real. The rooftop kept going around us. Cole left around 10:30 without saying goodbye, which was the clearest sign that the evening had not gone the way he had intended. Danny danced with 3 different people and demanded everyone sing the last chorus of a song nobody fully knew the words to. Marcus and Priya slow danced near the water tower like 2 people who had stopped needing to perform anything for anyone. Jade and I stayed until the party thinned. When we finally came downstairs, it was past midnight, and the Austin streets were quiet, in the way late nights make things quiet, unhurried, and a little honest. We stood on the sidewalk outside the building. The night air had that late October edge to it now, cooler than it had been, the kind of temperature that makes you want to stay somewhere warm. So, she said. So, I said. She tilted her head at me. This is the part where you take me to get late-night tacos, and we have the actual conversation. I smiled. That was the plan. You didn't have a plan 45 minutes ago. I have one now. She laughed, quiet and real, and we walked 2 blocks to the place on East 6th that stayed open until 2 and had the kind of fluorescent lighting that made everyone look honest. We sat across from each other in a small booth and talked for 90 minutes about everything we had been calling something else. It was not a perfect conversation. There were things we stumbled over, and one moment where we both started talking at the same time and had to stop and look at each other and laugh. But it was ours. No audience, no Cole, no rooftop or string lights or pretending. Just 2 people finally saying the thing. Walking home, she put her hand in mine again. Not for anyone's benefit. Not as a performance. Just because it belonged there and we had both stopped pretending otherwise. At the corner before her building, she stopped and looked at me. "For the record," she said, "you were a terrible fake boyfriend." I looked at her. "Why?" She smiled, and it reached everything. "Because you weren't faking anything. I didn't have a response to that, so I didn't try to find one." We said goodnight. I walked the rest of the way home under the Austin sky and thought about 7 words my best friend had said to me at a railing, and how the smallest honest sentence can rearrange everything you thought you already knew. 3 months later, Jade and I are not fake anything. Marcus still brings it up at every opportunity. Priya acts like she personally engineered the outcome. Danny claims she knew from the first night, which is probably true. And every now and then, in the elevator on the way to our separate floors, one of us looks at the other and smiles, like 2 people who spent a year being very careful and 1 night being honest. The honest night was better. If this story stayed with you, leave a like. And if you've ever had someone say 7 words that changed the way you saw yourself, subscribe. The next story is already waiting. If you made it to the very end, comment, "She wasn't faking either."